Let's get started with the next session. The session is about empowering India's micro entrepreneurs, the future of digital livelihoods. This session is co-hosted by Meesho. Please join me in welcoming the distinguished panel. Dr. Rajneesh, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India. Ajayita Shah, Founder and CEO, Frontier Markets. Aniket Doigar, Co-founder and CEO, Hark Darshak. Prasanna Arunachalam, Chief Product Officer, Meesho. This session will be moderated by Shweta Punj, Editor, Economic Policy, Money Control. Over to you, Shweta.
Thank you for that, and a very warm welcome to all our panelists. Well, there is a quiet revolution underway in India, and it's not happening in the boardrooms. It's happening actually in rural India. And one of the key drivers of that revolution is the e-commerce boom that we have seen, which has really enabled financial inclusion. It's creating job creators and micro entrepreneurs, which is leading to financial empowerment. It's leading to a social economic change in the country. And the panelists here are partially responsible for that. Of course, there are many more, but what people that we have here represent a big part of this growing sector of digital commerce. Let me begin with you, Dr. Rajneesh, since you are the policy maker here. India has consistently worked on building a digital ecosystem, whether it started with Aadhaar, UPI, and so on. I want to get a sense from you on, in terms of the future for this micro-entrepreneurial space, what are the policy interventions that the government is working on?
Thank you, Shweta. First of all, I would like to just underline the dynamics in which the micro-entrepreneurs are driving the Indian economy. So if we look at Indian economy and we compare it with the growth which is happening in the advanced nations, so we find in the last 10 years, US economy grew at a rate of 2%, UK economy grew at a rate of about 1.7%, Germany at 1.7%, Japan at 0.7%. India has posted a growth rate in the last 10 years on an annual basis, a CAGR of more than 5.5%. So that is the growth that we have seen in the Indian economy, and if you look at the recent numbers, the economic growth rate in the last quarter, it was 7.3%. Now the point I'm trying to make here is, I come from Ministry of MSME. MSMEs contribute more than 30% to the Indian economy. Right. So we believe that the growth of the Indian economy and the resilience of the Indian economy, one of the prime pillars are micro, small and medium enterprises. And when we look at the micro, small and medium enterprises, you use the word micro entrepreneurs. What we have seen is the real growth potential in the micro sector. And just to give you an example, as on 1st of April 2023, there were 1.64 crore MSMEs which were registered with the ministry. And we knew that there are many more MSMEs which are there operating in the tier 2, tier 3 areas. So we took a focused drive along with the state governments and the associations, and we tried to reach out to them. So in a span of less than 2.5 years, the number of registrations of MSMEs with Government of India, that has increased from 1.6 crore to more than 7 crore now. So that is the potential that we have in our system. Other example is there is a scheme that we operate. It's called PM Vishwakarma. It's basically for artisans and craftspeople. And artisans and craftspeople in India, traditionally, they have played a very important role in building the rural economies. And when we started the scheme was started on 17th of April 2023 on Vishwakarma Day. So we were given a target of enrolling 30 lakh artisans and craftspeople in a span of 5 years. And in less than 2.5 years, we have enrolled all 30 lakh artisans and craftspeople. In fact, if we look at the total number of applications that we have received, that number is more than 2.4 crore. So that is the latent potential. And I think this is where the real growth story of India lies. And this is where we really need to push, and we really need to create various programmatic interventions for the growth of these micro entrepreneurs.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a weaver in Bhagalpur can, dream of selling his or her product to a customer in the United States. So I think that in itself is a huge step up. Prasanna, let me come to you. You know, one of the big concerns that emerges in this whole story is thin margins that micro entrepreneurs work with, because while they are able to, showcase their. I think your mic's on. Okay. While they're able to showcase their products and while they're able to find buyers across the world, but in terms of margins, they still feel that they're not getting their due.
So thanks for the question. I'm quite honored to be here and representing Meesho. So yeah, like if you look at it, like there are a lot of platforms that has given access for people to sell, but the challenge remains on how to make their business big and be profitable. If you take a step back and look at what are the problems, right? Like there are two major problems for small entrepreneurs they face when they kind of try to do business online or do e-commerce. The first one is cost of doing business. The cost of doing business for a small entrepreneur is much higher than, let's say, an established enterprise or a brand out there. And if you break down, this is first. And second one is like ability to invest in growth, right? These two are big limiting factors for a small entrepreneur. And I'll talk about like what are some of the product innovations we can do in both these buckets, right? If you first take cost of doing business, if you look at it, Meesho around like 6 years back, we started the 0% commission for sellers, which reduced their cost of doing business. But one of the things over years, the last 2-3 years, we have been trying, the cost of doing business is quite high because the capital they want to start a business is very expensive, right? Like a lot of small entrepreneurs borrow locally from local lenders, and the cost of capital is quite high for them. And it's because like a lot of them are new to credit. So they don't get access from banks to kind of, have cheap access to capital like a big company has. So that's where like one of the big product innovations we should do together is how do you kind of, help provide access to these sellers to get, lenders at a very affordable rates, right? This is where if you look at what we have done as a company is also like use data that Meesho has about these small entrepreneurs in terms of the kind of products they are selling, what is the cash flow they have, the quality of products they are selling, what is the user feedback on these products. So we build more predictive, forward-looking algorithms to look at, okay, this seller has good products, has good, economics of business. We take a bet on them and we enable lending for them through NBFCs. So this data that we have is quite valuable about the seller because it also, you can port this data also outside Meesho ecosystem, and that's also one of the infrastructure, government can build also to ensure like they're able to get access at a cost of capital at a cheap rate. This is the first part. Second, cost of doing business is high because the know-how of how to run a digital e-commerce business is low. They don't know like So one thing I came across when talking to a lot of small entrepreneurs is when I go and talk to them and I ask them like, okay, are you making money from what you're doing? How much money you're making? They find it very difficult to answer because the P&L understanding, right? Like where the money is coming, where the money is going. There is a lot of different cost in doing business digitally, right? There are returns, there are RTOs, there is logistics cost, there is cataloging cost, so on and so forth. So other big part of what we do is how do we help sellers with intelligence to kind of reduce the cost. So for example, if a specific product is getting a lot of returns, we help them to understand, show the P&L of the product, help them to understand, okay, this is where you're making money, this is why you're not making money, help them to kind of improve their cost structure, which a well-established company will have like CAs and very highly, people in that field to do that for them. How do we kind of simplify it for them in a very simple way they can understand and make decisions is a very big thing. When it comes to growth, the next part is, I think they face challenges in multiple things in growth, right? They don't know, they struggle how to catalog their product. They struggle like, what is the marketing they can do? So this is where, like a lot of AI products can really help, which we are trying to kind of deploy to the sellers. Like, can
Like
they use
AI tutorials, something on those
So
lines?
basically, like, I'll take a very simple example. I am a seller and I made let's say, a beautiful painting and I want to kind of sell it. So let's say you take a picture on your phone and you upload it. AI can kind of help you to say, like, create a catalog by itself, right? Like, talk about the characteristics of the art and kind of, go publish it online. So this is what I was referring as AI-led cataloging. So this, because a lot of people find it very difficult to write in words like, okay, this is their product will do. A lot of things. Pricing is a big challenge. They don't know how to price because they don't know like what's the right price, how to price this specific product. That's where once again in pricing intelligence comes in. The next one is after pricing, they don't know how to promote their products. That's where if we can build something to say like this is the margin you are making from this product, and ensure like they make this margin and then build promotion platforms on top of it so that like it's very simple for them to understand. I'm selling this product, I'll make 5 rupees, and everything else goes in promotion and other things. So these are some of the things which can help them to grow, because as they grow, operating leverage increases and their profitability significantly increases. When you're very small, your leverage is low and your profitability is also low. So these are two buckets which I think like product innovations can really help small sellers. One is how to reduce cost of doing business, and other is how to enable them for growth in the entire life cycle of selling something online.
Okay, we'll get into those details in a little bit more. Aniket, Dr. Rajneesh spoke about schemes that are targeted towards micro entrepreneurs, but getting qualified for those schemes also is a challenge, and I'm sure several micro entrepreneurs struggle to really navigate the paperwork and the bureaucracy. So what's been your experience? What have been your key learnings in this process? Something that some food for thought that we can give to Dr. Rajneesh here.
Thank you. I think one is the definition of MSMEs, micro, nano is so vast that you can be an individual who can also register as a business. Right? You can be a sole proprietor, you can be running a small business like sir mentioned, artisans, you could be any informal sector. So I think as an individual in a low income or marginalized ecosystem, the biggest problem comes in discovery, which is I don't know a scheme exists. That's step one. If I know a scheme exists, then I don't know if I'm eligible. So eligibility becomes the second barrier. Once I know I am eligible, the third step becomes application. That application has then layers of documentation. Because then you have to get your Udyog Aadhaar to GST, to if you are a street vendor who's selling food, then FSAI registration. So multiple things, depending on the business you are in, depending on the state you are in, and then becomes the last part where I think all MSMEs want to get access to credit. That's the ultimate kind of access in terms of growth path, market access to credit, leading to access to market linkages. So I think we at Darshak have been looking at this as a DEAR framework, DEAR framework, discovery, eligibility, application, and redressal. So I think there we have a vast majority of MSMEs. Like it was mentioned earlier, I think we've done a great job in getting them recognized and registered. But now we need to help them discover and apply for different programs, because needs in our country are very unique and diverse. What is required for an entrepreneur in Himachal is completely different to what is required for an entrepreneur in Tamil Nadu. They may be the same business, might be selling to similar customers, but because their products will be so different and so diversified. So how do we make very decentralized ecosystems is one. The second that we are also learning is that apart from government schemes, there is a huge need for digital and financial literacy, because the digital world is moving very fast, right? So whether it's AI, whether it's different kind of payment technologies or different kind of market linkage technologies, that how do you move with kind of provide them access to easily available local language information, and that with AI is possible today. You don't need to do classroom trainings. You don't need to give, you can create small videos. This is actually an opportunity for a lot of people to build for MSMEs, which is data, content, which they want to consume. Just like there is so much data online all the time for share prices and stockbroking, there is so much need for data for small businesses to consume on how to do their businesses. And then I think there are certain entrepreneurs that we are seeing on the ground. We are working with close to 150,000 different kinds of diversified entrepreneurs. And we are also seeing that they have something called a EDP requirement, which is entrepreneurship development programs, which can be very customized, much more detailed, much more demand focused. So there is this spectrum of demand that is there. Like I said, in government schemes, there is, I think, a great work happening on enrollment, getting people registered, but then utilization of those programs and then leading it to government access, there is still a huge gap. I mean, to give you an example, in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, we did work with 15,000 women on nano entrepreneurs. And we did their government scheme applications under Mudra loans. 3,000 women got the loans. 12,000, the problem is not that they didn't get the loans. The problem is the status of rejection doesn't come through. So they still don't know whether their application is rejected or accepted or in the system.
Dr. Rajneesh, you want to come in here? This is a big concern, and this is something I've heard across the board.
So both the panelists, they mentioned about access to credit. So I will address that issue first. So we believe that if the policy interventions are right, and if you create right kind of incentives in the system, then the outcomes also, are robust. I'll just give you an example. Sometimes, the system works on some perceptions. When we speak about access to credit, normally people think, and the bankers also think, that if we lend to a micro enterprise, maybe lending to micro enterprise will be associated with a higher risk of default. And that is one of the reasons that we have seen which inhibits flow of credit to some of the micro enterprises. So we did an experiment. In 2023, what we did was that there is a credit guarantee trust for micro and small enterprises. So the way we address this problem is, we tell the banks that if you lend to the micro enterprises, and in case there is a default, 75% to 85% of that default will be covered by the government. And this scheme, CGTMSE, this was started in 2000. So between 2000 and 2022, the total number of credit guarantees that we extended to the micro and small enterprises, that number was 3.4 lakh crores in a span of 22 years. And in 2022, there was a budget announcement, and the Honorable Finance Minister made an announcement that in next 5 years, can we provide additional 2 lakh crores to the MSMEs, to the micro and small enterprise. Now you can compare. In 22 years, 3.4 lakh crores. And in 5 years, we were to provide additional 2 lakh crores to the micro and small enterprises. So we did basically two things. The first was this perception about high default rates associated with the micro enterprises. So we worked with the RBI, we took that data. And you'll be surprised to know that the RBI's, according to the RBI's report, the NPAs associated with MSMEs, the NPAs are 3.5% only. And they are comparable to any of the non-MSME loans that are extended. So this was a major myth or a perception that we tried to break, and the banks also have realized. And in 2023, we did some corpus infusion into CGTMSE because the organization was over leveraged and there was a huge target in front of us. And we also reduced the cost of guarantee fees. There is a fee that we charge. So that was slashed by 50%. So you mentioned about the cost of credit. So we reduced the cost of credit. We tried to dispel the myth of higher NPAs with the banks. And in 2.5 years, between 1st of April 2023 till today, we have given, against a target of 2 lakh crores, the credit guarantees extended to micro and small enterprises is more than 6 lakh crores. So that is the underlying potential that I was also referring earlier. In the system, within the system, the government is cognizant of the fact that access to credit is something that we really need to promote. And let me tell you, in last 10 years, the credit outstanding to the MSMEs, it has increased from 10 trillion to more than 32 trillion now. And if you read the economic survey of the current year, you'll find that the growth of credit to the micro, small and medium enterprises is more than 13.5% on an annual basis, whereas the growth of credit to the non-MSME sector is about 6.5%. So there is clearly a focus of the government to addressing the credit requirements of the MSMEs, but we do it within the framework of prudential financial norms. And in India, we take pride that our financial markets are very strong. I'm not naming any bank, but in Western countries, we have seen markets failing. But in India, we have a very strong banking foundation, which is based on the principles of prudential financial norms.
Thank you for that, Dr. Rajneesh. Let me come to you, Ajayita. When we look at micro entrepreneurs, women face greater and I think very unique challenges because they tend to rely a lot on their personal networks to expand their base. So what is the kind of, what kind of support can we extend to women entrepreneurs, women micro entrepreneurs, for them to tap into larger markets, for them to understand how to pitch their products better?
So I just want to make sure that we differentiate the context between, I think, all of us as entrepreneurs. So for me, what I think Meesho is doing in terms of helping women sell their products is because they're focused on local production that actually gets access to larger markets. So that question is probably better set for Meesho. Hagdarshak is doing the work is about government services. Frontier Markets is actually helping women be digital storefronts and be entrepreneurs on the ground in the villages that they live in. And they're actually the conduit to sell services to rural people. So again, putting some numbers in place, 800 million people, 700,000 villages, where people are otherwise not getting an Amazon or a Meesho type of service because they're living in these villages and they're walking 15, 20, 30 kilometers even to get access to basic services. Airtel Payments Bank back in the day when we started working with them had made this quote that we want that banking services shouldn't be more than 15 minutes away from where you live. Now, if you want banking services to be less than 15 minutes away from where you live in rural India, you need 3.5 million banking correspondents. We have right now not even 300,000 that are active. So what we've done is we've been working with self-help groups and actually having these women take advantage of the fact that they have these close networks. Women that are a part of the self-help group infrastructure today, the one asset or power that they have is their network, their personal network. It's the people that they know, it's the community that they trust, it's where they live. We digitize those women entrepreneurs to help them become better sellers of services that people need. So these women today are doing banking services, agri services, e-commerce, financial services, et cetera, but they are actually taking advantage of the one point that I would argue is really underestimated, which is that her social network is very strong. And where she lives and who she knows, that trust is powerful. And because that trust is so powerful, she's helping other people get access to services that they need. And I think it's really important for us to remember that. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we've decided that women should only be making things and we should be selling it outside. And I don't actually agree with that. I actually think that there's 15.7 million women businesses today that are running kiranas, beauty parlors, tailoring. They're providing services for the villages where they live in, and they're creating economies and societies there. So I think for me, that's been really important. And one other point that I was just gonna quickly make is that I think the point that Aniket, you just said about taking the responsibility to the next level. I think that you're absolutely bang on. I think that we started doing a partnership with the Andhra Pradesh government this just last year in partnership with SERP and GADA and the chief minister, where these women entrepreneurs that are now digital women sellers, they, in order for them to get a bank loan, the banks, even though they were trying to push on getting a CIBIL score of 650. Now, if you're a first-time entrepreneur and a first-time person getting a loan, 650 is impossible as a CIBIL score. You also needed to get your Udyam Aadhaar registered. You also needed to get your GST registered. So all of these elements were the things that we had to do in partnership with the bank. But when the government came in, and this is what's really powerful, the government wrote off that CIBIL score requirement to make it easier for the banks to provide a loan. And these are banks that are providing loans at less than 12% interest rates, and they're providing it with a 6-month moratorium and a 3-year repayment. That is better than anything I've ever seen. I don't even think I can get that kind of loan. And so to me, it's a matter of connecting the dots and then understanding what are women wanting to do versus what we're telling them to do, and where do they sit in everything else in between. And how do we change the narrative to make it very clear that actually the power that women have is their social network, and we should take advantage of that.
Fascinating. Thank you for that. Let me come to you, Prasanna. You're working with so much data, right? And it's a huge responsibility for you to protect your sellers when it comes to data privacy, when it comes to cybersecurity. So what are the measures that Meesho is taking to ensure that these sellers are protected?
Got it. So talking about data, I just want to first touch on the previous topic just for a minute. It's great, as a government and as a policy, we are really helping a lot of micro entrepreneurs out there. But one thing I feel it's lacking and we need to still invest on is the tech and data infrastructure. Because one of the things, the system has to keep getting efficient, and yeah, we can obviously pump in more capital and all these things, but on ground, how well it's used and what's the feedback, right? Who are the people who are actually kind of benefiting from it, and getting those signals is quite important, because we don't want to cross-subsidize. If there are 100 micro-entrepreneurs you're lending, there would be 10 who are not actually using it for the actual reasons. And it's very important to kind of provide more and more capital in the right places. So I think the tech and data infrastructure is still a work in progress. I just wanted to kind of highlight that, although we are coming up with policies, but if you don't kind of go deep and build the infrastructure at grassroots levels, the benefit is really not, sometimes it's not going to the right places as well. And just wanted to add that. Coming back to your question, I think Meesho's data is quite secure because firstly, all the data is hosted in our own cloud. We are working with Google and some of the quite tight, solid cloud partners in which all this data is stored, and we have our own dedicated data centers with them. So we have 100% privacy of all the seller data, and we do use this data is quite valuable to us because we do use that to lend to our sellers. And a lot of the sellers we lend to, as I was saying, 25% of the sellers we lend to are new to credit. They don't have a credit score, but we do still lend to them basis their behavior, basis their profile on Meesho, basis their cash flows, basis their products. But it's quite preparatory, and we are currently using it only for Meesho purposes, and the data is not available for anybody else.
And we hope it'll remain that way.
So I think it more depends on how do we want to take this forward. It a lot depends on how some of the government policies. I personally believe, I think the overall community can benefit by opening this data, simply because if you build a shared infrastructure where, like across different platforms, you have the identity of the seller, kind of a portable identity, very similar. You can take inspiration from Aadhaar, right? Like which kind of, when Aadhaar came in, it was built as a platform. So now a lot of lending is on the backbone of Aadhaar and KYC, right? So similar to that, if there is a entrepreneur identity created, and if it's kind of a shared platform which is owned by, let's say, the government, and it could be like also the data could be anonymized. I think like it could really benefit, because if I as a micro entrepreneur is having an offline store, I'm selling selling online across platforms. It's just that when all these things are put together and you create an identity for seller, it reduces the risk for a bank or an NBFC to lend to the seller, because they have more data points. So you get the capital at a cheaper cost, first thing. Second thing is like, one thing, if you actually go to the ground, one is like helping them with the capital. Other problem people faces is that enough capital for enough period of time. So if you're lending someone, let's say like 1 lakh over 3 years, this may not be good enough capital for them to scale the business really fast. The cycles has to be faster, the amounts have to be bigger. For that, you need more data to take the risk and kind of give them for a 6-month cycle, like maybe a 5 lakh kind of a loan. So to do that, you need to have more data points about that specific entrepreneur. And that's where a shared platform can really kind of, turn things around for overall everyone in the country.
Okay,
But yeah,
I'm
we
sure
will
that's a
see how
separate
that evolves.
conversation. Yeah, there are pros and cons to that. Aniket, let me get your views on ensuring social protection for micro entrepreneurs, specifically women. When it comes to say maternity leave and things like that, women are a lot more vulnerable to losing their livelihood during the times that they are not able to work. So how do we ensure this very crucial aspect of of working, of ensuring empowerment at every level?
I think that's a huge kind of gap today overall. I think in both the micro entrepreneurs and the workers and gig economy, all those aspects. I mean, end of the day, micro and nano entrepreneurs are also citizens, individual citizens. So there are schemes for individual citizens like social protection, insurance, accident insurance, things like that. But I think there, as it was mentioned earlier, we've grown from 1.2 crores to 7 crores. And I think with the digital aspect, we'll have a lot more digital entrepreneurs, right? Because a lot of entrepreneurs will pick up the digital skills, younger entrepreneurs. We do need to design effective social security programs, keeping everyone in mind. And I think there, whether it is, like you said, whether it's maternity benefits, whether it's insurance programs, savings programs, investment programs, how can government, private sector, and the ecosystem come together, right? Like simple things like contributory PF, a provident fund, right? There is a program already, but not a lot of micro entrepreneurs register their 1 or 2 employees on it, because the filing of PF is not easy. And then once you are in the system, who's going to tell the labor officer to, every 6 months, how can that be faceless in digital for smaller businesses? Because I can't afford a chartered accountant as a small business necessarily, or as a shared service, or ESIC. Employee State Insurance Scheme is a better scheme than Ayushman Bharat. But the problem is nobody knows in Delhi which are the 17 hospitals to go to, which are registered, or in a small town, or in a small city. ESIC is a great program. So how can we make this a lot more, like just like we are talking about credit guarantee, can we do social security guarantee, where the government also comes in with certain kinds of, and encourages the employers with incentives to get social protection and social security done for, as an entrepreneurs for themselves, and also the 1 or 2 people that they are employing. But largely today, in terms of social security, we are still looking at individual programs, and barring credit and some form of, in certain businesses, insurance, there isn't much micro entrepreneur or nano entrepreneur focused social security yet.
Anjayda, I'd like you to come in on this. When we talk about digital livelihoods, we run the risk of exclusion because not everyone is digitally savvy, not everyone has access to digital infrastructure. So how do you ensure inclusion in this space?
It's a great question. So one, I think that in this digital move, we forgot that actually Bharat, India, is not really 100% digital at all. Everything is human oriented. And my joke always is that even when you go to a parking lot today, there's a guy that puts your ticket in so that you can actually get out. Or when you go to the airport, 7 people are looking at your boarding pass, right? So we are a human-centered ecosystem for a reason. So I think that where women have become really critical in this entire process is that they are that trusted assister, which I think is really important to understand in terms of livelihoods that we're talking about. So like gig economies, you have women that are becoming mentors and leaders for a reason. Now, the point about digital savviness, I think one of the reasons why we created the Meri Saheli app was created for women, by women, with women, because we basically said, tell us what you want technology to do for you. And they basically were like, I want to know more things, I want to do more things, I want to track more things, and I want to earn more things. And so when you were designing it with that lens, they did say, let it be voice enabled, let it be AI enabled. I want to be able to open my phone and I want someone to tell me what I have to do to make money that day. And I want it to be in my language. So that's where inclusion comes in when you co-design technology. Secondly, I think it was about the smartphone elephant in the room, right? We talk about how there's a smartphone now in every rural house, but let's be clear, that smartphone is not being used by the woman, it's being used by the son or the husband. But then when we have these data points, all we need to do is partner with the right organization to address it. And I think the other last thing that I will say is it's about information. So we talked about data a lot today, but it's about the right data from the right person at the right time. So when women are asking questions, and I'll give a really simple example, someone said to me, hey, Ajayta, don't you care about climate change and its impact on small women farmers? I said, that's a really weird question. Of course I care about women farmers and climate change. Question is, what do we want to do about it? We had to ask, do you know who a small woman farmer is? Do you understand her access to land or not land? Do you understand what her connection to insurance is? Do you know what her land loss is when there's a flood or a drought? When you don't answer the right questions, you're not going to be able to build the right solution. So I think for me, that's where the inclusion has come in. But getting the smartphone in the hands of these women, giving them the right technology to ask the right questions, game-changing in terms of what you can do to build livelihoods as an opportunity.
Fantastic. Let me come to Dr. Rajneesh. This is a platform where we have the private sector and the government on the same platform. How can the public and the private sector work together? What are the inputs or what is the kind of support you think that the private sector can lend to the public sector to, one, ensure digital literacy? Because it cannot be done alone by the government. The private sector also has to step up. And to ensure greater access to credit.
Yeah, first of all, we believe that India is an aspirational country. So you mentioned about work in progress. Everything is work in progress. And in government, we also believe that every challenge presents an opportunity. So this is how we basically design our policies. And working with the private sector, I think in every field, the private sector is working with government or government is working with the private sector. Look at education. Look at how the education system in private sector, look at banking, look at any sector for the matter. I think it is a symbiotic relationship. Government is basically, we are facilitators and some policies or some regulations are there basically to see that things are moving in the right direction, but we do believe in the power and strength of all economic actors. In fact, We believe that it is not only the large enterprises or the medium or the small or the micro enterprises. Anybody, even if somebody is working as a barber, somebody is working as a shoesmith, if somebody is working as a farmer, everybody is contributing to the economy. And when we look at the GDP is a sum total of all the activities that are done by the economic actors. So in Government of India, we believe in inclusion, we believe in an inclusive growth. So when we speak about MSMEs, we say that MSMEs help in promoting inclusive growth, because if you look at the employment figures, presently more than 30 crore people are employed in the MSME sector. So the growth which is inclusive is the focus of the government. Coming back to the question of access to credit, we also believe that it's not only access to credit, but it is also cost of credit. And as far as access to credit is concerned, till any loan of 10 lakh rupees, there are RBI guidelines wherein no collateral is required or taken by any of the banks. So this is the baseline. And as far as micro entrepreneurs are concerned, there are many interventions that the government has taken where we have done away with the CIBIL requirements, subject to the overall condition that there should not have been a default history associated with the person. You mentioned about your success in partnership with one of the state governments. In Government of India, I mentioned about PM Vishwakarma. So in PM Vishwakarma, the loans which are extended to the artisans and craftspeople, these loans are extended at a rate of 5% and up to 8% interest subvention we are giving. The other thing which we have deliberately included in for creating access to credit for these micro or these artisans and craftspeople is that no banker can refuse loan to artisan or a craftsperson. At his level, if there is to be a rejection, it has to go one step higher. This is basically to safeguard that there are no rejections which are, which hamper the flow of credit to the artisans and craftspeople. And in this scheme, there is also an instruction that the banks will not look at the CIBIL score to determine how much loan is to be given. The only parameter is there should not have been any default associated with the person who is seeking loan. So these are various initiatives for people who are new to credit. This is regularly monitored, not only by government, but also by the RBI.
Just one question for you, sir, sorry. I don't know if this is on. So in the idea of partnership, right? Because I think it's an interesting point that you're making. Sometimes I feel like maybe the disconnect is that we ourselves don't know as social entrepreneurs about what all the different schemes and possibilities are. But given that we're all on the ground and we are building these digital entrepreneurs, women specifically, how do you see us connecting the dots and working together to make this happen more effectively?
I'll give you an example. You're right that many a times people may not have information about the scheme government has. But if you look at it from a different perspective, if I have to give you an example of this PM Vishwakarma only. So it's a scheme which is completely digitized. So you mentioned about, doing registrations and then, whether or not the benefits will reach the people. The idea is if you have enrollments, then basically it creates entitlement. So if there is an entitlement which gets created, that is the first step. The entire journey for skilling, for dispensement of loans, for provisioning of toolkits, everything under the scheme is 100% digitized. There is not a single paper that you have to file. And in fact, we have more than 60 API connections with the PM Vishwakarma portal, because there is so much of digital stack that has been created in the government ecosystem, which is used by us and also by private sector. And the entire journey of giving benefits to the beneficiaries is completely digitized, and it is also faceless. Now, one more point. There are many times we see that there are challenges which lead us to go in for innovations. I'll give you an example. So under PM Vishwakarma, we were to provide toolkits to the artisans and craftspeople. Now, the mandate was that can we provide toolkits to artisans and craftspeople who are spread across country in every nook and corner of the country and ensure that this is done in an efficient way. And let me put it more openly, like, can we eliminate any possibility of rent seeking? Can we ensure that the benefit is received by the actual person? Because normal delivery mechanism is that these toolkits are procured, they are supplied at a government place, and then the artisan or, I mean, beneficiaries, they have to come, and then it happens. So the system that we designed, first of all, we wanted to, create a system where we should be able to devise a mechanism that these toolkits are provided at the doorstep of the beneficiaries, rather than the beneficiary coming to a government office to get the delivery. Can we provide these toolkits at his doorstep? So we contacted Amazon, we contacted other e-commerce players, and then we found out that their delivery mechanisms in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 areas are not there. And then ultimately we went to India Post and we nudged them, to use a lighter word, that this is a delivery system we want to create. And because we wanted to ensure that the toolkits go to the right person, so we introduced the delivery based on e-vouchers. So this was done for the first time using technology. We worked with the NPCI, issued e-vouchers to the beneficiaries, did the procurements, hired a third-party agency who will do the inspections. Thereafter, the India Post, they pick up these consignments, and these consignments then are delivered to the doorstep of the beneficiary, wherein the postmen, we trained more than 50,000 postmen for this purpose. And the postmen, when they deliver, they do an open box delivery. There is a video recording which is done. It is uploaded on a real-time basis on our system, and it is linked with banks. So the moment the toolkit is delivered, it is video recorded, information comes on the portal, and within 24 hours, the money is also credited to the vendors. Otherwise, the vendors normally, they will run across government offices to get their bills cleared. Now, this is a system which we designed because we wanted to create a system where we wanted to eliminate the possibility of rent seeking, and we wanted to make system more efficient. So I'm just giving an example of how you can use technology to drive innovation. And this can be done by government, this is being done by the private sector. For example, in microfinance, the way microfinance sector has grown, it has grown basically on UPI. And if you look at the UPI data in the month of August this year, more than 20 billion transactions have happened in 1 month, in August. And more than, I think, 20 lakh crores amount has been transacted. And UPI is a system which has been created by the government. And this system is not only for the government, it is being utilized by Meesho. If you are doing microfinancing, I'm sure you are utilizing the UPIs. So again, coming back to your question, it is not work in silos, like government is working or the private sector is working. It is basically a collaborative work, and we believe in whole of government approach.
Thank you. You do have a very tough and a very thankless job. It's a lot of coordination. It's a lot of nudging the Indian Postal Service. Nudging is, like you said, a mild word really to get them to work with you.
But let me tell you, initially there was, some, I think even in your organizations, like in private sector, if you want to do something innovative, so initially there is resistance to change. So in our system, the good thing is the resistance does not long for much. So if we really want to do something, so it really gets done. So in a span of 2 months, I think a new system was designed in association with India Post, and I'm thankful to India Post for collaborating with us. And I think jointly we have been able to do this. And we also received the Honorable Prime Minister's Award for Innovation this year. And this basically has, I mean, this has come through the challenge, I would say, the challenge of creating an efficient system based on technology.
Fantastic. We also have some questions from the audiences. My question, I think this question is for Dr. Rajneesh, on how can we make capital availability through formal channels to people who don't have credit history it takes a long time to create credit histories and leads to a lot of slipbacks for entrepreneurs, something that Ajayita also refers to. So how can we really do that? Because ultimately it comes down to, getting access to funding.
So there are 2, 3 ways through which we do this. First is, as I have mentioned, that for loans up to 10 lakh rupees, there is no collateral which is required. There are schemes under which there is a specific instruction that CIBIL is not the only criteria for determining loans. And the third thing is, for anybody who is new to credit, this credit guarantee scheme for the micro and small enterprise. By the way, we provide 85% guarantee to the loans which are extended to women entrepreneurs. So which basically means that, see it from the banker's perspective. If I am extended, let's say, 100 rupee loan, and if there is already a guarantee of 85% on that loan amount, then to that extent, my decision or my decision making for extending that loan, it increases. This is something that which we regularly monitor also in association with the RBI. In fact, in the RBI meetings with the banks, where MSME is also a partner, this is among the first agenda items about those who are new to credit.
I'm just going to add one quick point. I think there's also an assumption in that question that everyone wants a loan. I think one of the biggest learnings that I've had over the last 20 years has been that many times women don't want the loan because they don't have a business where the loan is required. So there's a lot of other layers other than just credit history creation. Women need to be trained in digital, in capacity building for setting up a business. They need to be able to have access to the right set of customers. They need to be able to try to see what it's like to get a working capital loan, which I think now more than ever, CSR has played an incredible role in bringing things like returnable grants that allows women to get involved in a cycle to build their credit history through technology, but also learn what it's like to rotate capital. And then once that happens, you're able to unlock all the incredible schemes that Sir is talking about, right? But because even when we did this work in Andhra, women weren't ready to take a 50,000 rupee loan. They wanted like a 5 to 10,000 rupee loan because they wanted to get kickstarted. So I think it's a matter of us also recognizing the timing of what other interventions are required to make sure that she's credit ready and not just her history.
Yeah, 2 more things I would like to share. One is, now in the banking system, we are also moving towards cash flow based lending. So traditionally the lending has been, basically asset based. And now while we are moving to the cash based lending, which is basically like, if I'm doing transactions, if I'm say a retail shop owner, every day I'm doing transactions, and those transactions are getting tracked through the UPI, and this information is available with various partners, like with Meesho. If you are doing a microfinancing, I'm sure you would be doing it on the basis of the information that you have. So similarly for the banks, the cash flow based lending is now getting, it's one of our core agendas. The second is, in Ministry of MSME, we also believe that it is not only loans, as you rightly mentioned, which people look forward to. We also have started doing equity investment into the MSMEs. And in fact, if you read the budget announcements, there are funds of funds which have been created for the startups. There are fund of funds for the MSMEs. In fact, we operate a fund called Self-Reliant India Fund, through which we make equity investment into the micro, small and medium enterprises. So equity investment, wherever we have done, the results that we are seeing now is, once there is an equity infusion coming through the bank, it's basically, a signaling towards the trust that somebody is reposing into that entrepreneur. We have seen 5x to 10x infusion of equity from private sources happening in the same companies. So we do believe that this is another area where we need to expand. And again, to borrow the terminology, this is work in progress.
India is a work in progress. So I think that holds true. Life is work in progress, absolutely. Next question from the audience is on, amidst fierce competition and cold starts, how do micro entrepreneurs launch viable digital businesses and sustain their balance sheets in year one, despite high setup and operating costs? I think that's a bit of an advice that some people in the audiences are looking at. Prasanna, you want to take a shot at it?
So I think like it goes back to the first question we discussed, right? Like it's not just about the capital, it's also about like how do we, what do we do and how do we scale business and be profitable as well. So to start with, like a lot of micro entrepreneurs, like they want to figure out what is the demand out there in the country. It's a very, like what kind of products, what kind of services have demand, like what. So basically, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm starting something, I need to find a product market fit, like whatever I'm selling. There should be enough consumers out there who will be able, who buy my product and they kind of come back to keep buying my product. And that's when the business grows. So one of the things that I think like we as a platform can kind of build is to help understand, given the vast data, both private sector as, government sector as, on helping them to understand like what products have demand and what kind of services have demand in the country and what are the areas in which these demands are aggregated at. It helps to build a product, it helps to achieve product market fit, right? Because most people fail because let's say they get access to capital, they start doing something, and in entrepreneurship, like the chances of failure is quite high. So this is about like how do you increase those chances significantly so that like you get more people to succeed on their entrepreneurship journey. And that's where like once again I believe like if we kind of able to kind of provide this at scale, provide this intelligence at scale, you can help more people succeed, and then like the growth compounds from there once they kind of scale.
So are you doing that? Is Meesho doing
So
that?
to sellers in Meesho, we do. So for example, like we do help with AI. It has become much more easy for us also to do it, to be quite honest, because it helps you to personalize at scale AI. So we do, like for instance, if Holi is coming, like so a month, 1.5 months before, we do help sellers to understand, okay, in these regions, these are the kind of products are going to sell for Holi. So people can start listing such products on our platform. We also give them like, okay, if you are listing, let's say for a Holi, like let's say the most sold product is white t-shirt during Holi, right? We also give them the pricing intelligence, like the white t-shirt in different regions of the country, at what price you could possibly sell to get more orders. So this makes the entrepreneur think, okay, if I have to sell a white t-shirt at 100 rupees, what has to change in my the way I kind of produce this product, whether he has to go change the way the fabric that is used, whether the manufacturing cost is incurring and all these things. This pushes them to innovate, right? Because now they understand, for them to be successful, this is the kind of product, this is the kind of pricing I need to do this. And with this intelligence, they are able to innovate because now they know the rules to win the game.
Sure. So my closing question, we don't have any more questions from the audiences, but my closing question is to all the panelists. We are living in a very uncertain world where technology and tech disruption is concerned, right? And we're all grappling to understand the impact of AI and machine learning on all our lives, whether it's in the newsroom, whether it's in your businesses and so on. How do we see AI and machine learning impact the micro entrepreneur? Do we see it as a positive force, or is it a cause of worry and concern? And do we really need to be thinking about upskilling and reskilling micro entrepreneurs to cope in a AI world? Ajata, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a huge opportunity. I think that, in fact, we're just about to announce a partnership with Microsoft on this, where we will be AI skilling all of our 40,000 women entrepreneurs. But the question is what? Like, AI is such a whatever concept, right?
Absolutely.
So it's about designing an understanding of what women see AI as, and it's about efficiencies. So what our women entrepreneurs said, they're like, Didi, I want to open Savvy. So that's the name of our AI bot, Savitri. I want to open Savitri, and I want Savitri to go, Namaste, Jeta, like, today's Friday, whatever date. Here are the 6 things you can do to make money, right? And it should be in Hindi, or it should be in Marwari, or it should be in Kannada, or it should be in Telugu, whichever language. that is an easy way for a woman entrepreneur to understand the power of what an AI tool can do. But she needs to know it, right? And so I think that given the movement of AI, we have to start contextualizing it also to help the entrepreneurs see the opportunities. And I also think that there's a risk that if we don't skill them or get them involved, they're going to be, again, thousands of years behind everything else that's happening.
Interesting. Yeah,
Can I-
Prasanna.
See, I think the way to think of it is, honestly, AI is just an enabler. So even before AI existed, if you look at the biggest problem is trust, right? She spoke about Savitri as an AI agent. So let's say before that we had a human agent, right? Like Meesho had a lot of humans who kind of tell the entrepreneurs over calls or meet them and tell them how to do the business, how they can upskill and so on and so forth. The challenge in all these things is trust, basically, right? Like where trust comes from, when they do it, do they see the outcome of it, right? Like otherwise the trust breaks, like whether it's a AI or a human or whoever it is. So what AI helps is, to be quite honest, it helps to improve trust in some sense, because you can tap into a lot of resources and data and kind of come up with better kind of recommendations to the micro entrepreneur than what a human, let's say, the human is also quite limited, right? The ability of a human is also quite limited to tell what would probably work for this region, this village, what would work to sell. Is something someone sitting in Bangalore cannot tell, or someone sitting in Nagpur cannot tell. So this is what the bridge AI kind of shares. It can give you a much better recommendation, much better blueprint for someone to kind of succeed in the business. But whether it's a human or AI, trust has always been a problem to solve for, and we believe we can solve the trust problem only if we are able to deliver the outcomes to the entrepreneurs. And that should be the goal of most companies who are using AI, is how do I build trust using AI? And I believe the answer lies in delivering the right outcomes
So
for the
how
entrepreneur.
aggressively are you using AI? Have all the humans been replaced?
So I think the stage in which AI is in India or even globally is still there is a lot of human in the loop. So although we are using a lot of AI, there is also there is a human aspect, because at this point in time, we are still kind of evaluating the output from all these tools. I'll give you a brief example. When my entrepreneurs come and list on Meesho, they do a very basic thing. They take a picture of the produce they have and they just post the picture, right? Then we had humans before, when I joined Meesho.
When was that?
It's been like 5.5 years.
Okay.
So we had agents who will look at this picture and then help them to catalog, right? This is a product, it is an art, it is a picture, what is that picture about, and all these things, right? So humans were kind of doing this. Now we have AI agents doing this now, right? Like from the picture, it will kind of help you to fully catalog your product. It also recommend what's the right price depending on the market price of the selling. So now, once again, we are in a phase where building confidence on AI. So there are humans who kind of validate the output, which we'll call as AI evaluation, which we are still doing. But I think the world can move towards removing, in some of the low complexity work, I think it could move to a world where this evaluation which humans are doing could also be productized in future as well.
Aniket, will we see a time when the products that are listed on, say, Meesho or other platforms actually say that this product was made by a human and not by a robot?
I think it's that time will come. It's just about on us whether we want to do that. I think maybe it's already happening. That we don't even know whether its listing is done by the AI.
There'll be a premium to that.
Premium to that.
Yeah.
But I do feel that like anything, there is an 80-20 rule. 20% of all entrepreneurs will do exceptionally well. They'll use AI productively. 80% will struggle. I mean, that's the reality in the near future. I mean, we
Shrug.
have
You said shrug.
struggle. They'll struggle.
Struggle, sorry.
Because
yeah.
I think in our case, we have about 50,000 women entrepreneurs on the ground that we've trained. The 20% who do really well, I think we are seeing their incomes are increasing. These are agents who go on the ground and deliver government schemes. And I think that 20-80 rule, we can say any number that we have these many entrepreneurs in the country. We have 10 crore women in self-help groups, 1 crore are active. 9 crore are not. So the ones who are productive will use AI very well, their incomes will increase, their opportunities will increase, but others will have to adapt, change, which will also be an opportunity to design more solutions. So that's the good thing. But not everybody will suddenly see the value of AI that like we are thinking. There will be job losses, there will be struggles.
It's already started, so.
It's only started. There is an opportunity, but I think rather than, I think there is a choice that we'll have to make where I think one, we'll have to give all the solutions possible for the early movers, the ones who can really take advantage and whether increase their income, increase their productivity. At the same time, also be very cognizant of the fact that we have to design solutions to the ones who will be left behind. I mean, we had the last big revolution was 95 when the internet came and it became big, right? Internet.
Yeah.
Not the dot-com, but internet. And I think this is something like that after 30 years. But we still have people who are not on the internet.
Absolutely.
So there will be people who will still be behind. But it will, in MSMEs, I think largely create more efficiency, more productivity. So I do see the positive side overall, where entrepreneurs will be able to take advantage of it. And I think increase their incomes as well.
At the end of the day, we are a country where we struggle with basic literacy.
Yeah.
So digital literacy is really, 1,000 steps ahead.
The
So I
only
think
only
that's a
good
big
thing about
challenge.
generative AI is going to be that AI can potentially solve the literacy problem also. So it actually
There's a
might
lot of
bring in a
potential
solution.
and promise in everything. Dr. Rajneesh, your closing comments on does it concern the government when it comes to AI and machine learning? Does it concern you that this could actually lead to more job losses and entrepreneurs could actually struggle to make the switch? And if that were to happen, how will India cope? Is there something that you're working on when it comes to skill development, perhaps collaborating with universities and so on at the local grassroots level to impart vocational training? Is that something that the government is thinking of?
So AI is basically emerging as a disruptive force. Obviously, the government is seized of the matter, and we believe that AI is going to create much more opportunities than what exists today. But it really depends with which intent and purpose the AI is utilized in times to come. And obviously, there have to be some regulations, and over a period of time, we believe that regulations will come about in the usage of AI, because this is something which is a new phenomena which is happening. But let me tell you one thing, AI is like an instrument which is, say, very powerful. How you utilize that instrument, if you are, say, a micro, small, or a medium enterprise, how it affects the system at a meso level or system at a macro level, it is going to create much more opportunities and also some challenges. So I think there has to be a very cautious approach as far as the policy making is concerned. And I think it will have a nuanced approach, sector by sector. And I think overall the impact would be positive, but yes, there may be some regulations that will emerge over a period of time.
Thank you so much for that, and a big thank you to all of you. I think it was a very insightful conversation where I personally learned a lot. I started off by saying that there's a silent revolution that's being scripted in the country by India's craftsmen, weavers, micro entrepreneurs who are making products and selling to the world, and it's happening through a whole host of companies that are actually showcasing these products. But we've just started on this journey. There is a lot more that needs to be done, and in a very fast changing world, tech disruptions, financial constraints, financial disruptions, I think all of that only pose new challenges which will require very innovative solutions and agility in how we respond to the crisis. So a big thank you to all of you, and we do hope that you found this conversation to be useful. And of course, we hope that Meesho does not replace everybody with AI. They're humans that continue to work.
I just want to add, like,
See, only a techie will say human. Huh?
so see, like, what it would enable in future is definitely more innovation, because you're kind of you're having all these micro entrepreneurs and everyone to kind of more focus on more complex work, which can do better innovation. Because all the productivity increase, everything is talking about, is very important for an entrepreneur, because you have to think from a consumer perspective. At the end of the day, consumer wants something which is lower in price and better quality. Whoever offering it, that's where the consumers will buy from. And this adoption of, automating low productive work will help them to kind of innovate more, is the way I would think of it, because they can start, rather than worrying about like, how do I kind of fulfill this order? You can use AI to fulfill the order, and then you can think about like what is innovate on the product itself, and more of your energy goes into like innovating what the Indian consumers would need for the next 10 years, rather than thinking about the basic infrastructure.
Right. Thank you so much for that. I think we'll end on that very optimistic high note that there are good things coming, and we are a work in progress, but we are headed on the right direction. Thank you so much.